Sometimes I cannot grasp why I'm still alive. I've been deeply troubled by this question since last night when McPhee brought me the report of British casualties from the first day of battle. We have lost more men in the last 2 days than we lost throughout the 13 days of fighting at Lewes last autumn. I shall not be able to bring myself to tell Estelle any of this, at least not yet, so I will record all my thoughts here instead. I am going to write about Culloden. I saw more of Culloden than I cared to as a lad. Stepping onto that moor always sent chills through me, as if ancestral memory could have tugged me back in time and demanded my life of me there. Every 16th of April, Mother dragged George and me there to put flowers at the Cameron Memorial. Some of my earliest memories are of my mother by her clan's stone, silhouetted against the sky, playing the flowers of the forest on her flute, the wind ruffling her hair. She was so beautiful and carefree in those days before my father came back home. She still made the journey after he rejoined the family, but father always refused to go along. There was always a contentious argument before and after the visit about the Graham and Cameron ancestors and which had been on the right side in 1745. Mother said that if the Grahams had sided with Prince Charlie, maybe Culloden would have turned out differently, whereas father insisted Culloden was folly no matter who fought, because the Scots had lost the battle already and should have surrendered before wasting all their blood there. If the Grahams had been Jacobites, he said, the entire family would have been driven out, their place and estate lost, and we'd all be coarse and vulgar Americans now, instead of the glorious Scots we still are. Mother couldn't ever win the argument. It was an undeniable historical fact that the only reason she was still in Britain was because some English souls had taken in the fatherless Cameron children and housed them in exchange for service as maids and stable boys. When they grew up, the Cameron children returned to the forever changed Highlands and married, living humbly and slowly rising back to better society. My mother's marriage to my father was condescension on his part, but her sterling reputation, her father's money, and the fact she was pretty were sufficient recommendations. Now that I think of it, it must have meant a good deal to her, Culloden. She never dared to argue with my father about anything else. Anyway, reading the casualty list from today was like a hefty smack in the gut. These were men I had helped to train and gotten to know as if they were sons or brothers. I could have put a face to almost every name listed. Buchanan, married 11 years, whose wife was finally expecting a baby. Young Cameron, who'd postponed going to university to join up. Campbell, who, like George, had left a flourishing career in law. McBride and Macpherson and Mingus, all engaged to lovely young ladies back home. Monroe and Warbeck and Wilson were, like me, family men with wives and children at home. And others. Dozens and dozens of others. All I can think of is having to write condolence letters to all these families, and of the scene at my own home if my family received one of these terrible letters. Estelle would be devastated. Not hopeless, she's too independent to ever be hopeless, and I did put everything in order before I left so that she would never want for anything if I die out here. She'll never lack for anything, but she would be devastated nonetheless. All of those men dead. And for what? The first day's slaughter here at the Somme seems as suicidally pointless and ill-managed as Culloden, and it makes me sick. I cannot help but feel as if I will never escape the ever-present beckoning of death which Culloden Moor instilled in me from my earliest memory. Will I make it home? There I go again. Fear, the monster, always with me, gnawing at me like rats. I desperately want to stop being afraid. It is easy to be brave with Estelle at my side. It is not so easy when she is 600 miles away.